Daniel never thought that winning a seat on an exploration vessel would change his entire life. He was just an engineer, someone who loved machines more than people, and he preferred the quiet corners of starships where only the hum of engines kept him company. When the captain of the Silver Dawn announced a mission to investigate a derelict ship floating near the edge of alien space, Daniel didn't expect to play an important role. He thought he would be asked to check wiring, maybe study fuel systems, and then return home with another line added to his work record. But fate had something different prepared. The derelict ship drifted silently in the dark void. Its metal hull was scarred, as though it had been through a war centuries ago. The crew of the Silver Dawn sent drones first, scanning for traps or hidden dangers. Nothing responded, only silence. Finally, a small team prepared to enter, and Daniel was chosen as part of it. He didn't like adventure, but he followed orders. Inside the alien ship, dust floated in beams of pale light from cracked panels. Strange symbols lined the walls, sharp curves and glowing traces of languages. No one on board could read. The corridors smelled of cold air, like a place frozen for ages. Daniel kept close to his tools, scanning power lines that no longer carried energy. Everything looked dead, until he stumbled into a chamber that didn't match the others. At the center of the room was a pod. It was not like any stasis pod Daniel had ever seen. The pod was smooth, pearl-like, with faint golden lines running across its surface. The glass window was clear, and behind it lay a small figure. His heart skipped. It was not machinery. It was not a skeleton. It was a girl. Her skin was pale, with a soft glow, her hair silver blue, flowing gently as if water moved inside the pod. Her eyes were closed, but her lips were curved slightly, almost as if she was dreaming. She looked young, fragile and gentle, nothing like the armored aliens Daniel had seen in war reports. "Captain," Daniel whispered over the comm, his throat dry. "You need to see this." The team gathered. Some muttered that it could be dangerous. Others wanted to leave her untouched, but Daniel could not step away. Something about the way she rested there made him feel as though she had been waiting, not just for anyone, but for someone human. The captain gave the order to bring the pod aboard. Back on the Silver Dawn, the scientists debated for hours. The girl seemed alive. Her vital signs were steady, though faint. They argued whether she should remain sealed or awakened. The pod itself hummed with energy, resisting their attempts to open it by force. Finally, Daniel noticed a panel with symbols that matched a pattern he had studied earlier in the ship. He traced them, one by one, until the pod gave a soft sigh, and released. The glass slid open. The girl stirred. Her chest rose sharply as if she had been holding her breath for centuries. Her eyes fluttered open, large, shimmering violet eyes that seemed too innocent for the cold metal around her. She looked around confused, and then her gaze settled on Daniel. Her lips moved. Her voice was small, broken, but the words were in human tongue, though awkwardly shaped. "I can serve. I can obey. I can warm. Your bed." The room went silent. Daniel blinked, stunned. He almost dropped his toolkit. The crew exchanged awkward glances. The girl, however, seemed certain, as though those words were a promise etched into her very being. She looked at Daniel as though waiting for approval. Daniel stepped forward carefully. "No, you don't have to say that," he said softly. "You're safe here, no one will hurt you." She tilted her head, confused. Her expression showed both innocence and determination, as if she had been taught that those words were her only purpose. The captain frowned, whispering to Daniel, "She might be some kind of creation, a servant made by another species. We have to be careful." Daniel ignored the warning. He reached out slowly, and the girl's small hand touched his. Her skin was warm, surprisingly human, though her fingers were slimmer, with faint golden markings glowing faintly along her wrist. "What's your name?" Daniel asked. She blinked again. "Name?" she repeated, struggling with the concept. "I am yours. I obey." Daniel felt a knot in his chest. He hated the thought of treating her as a thing, as property. She deserved more than that. Then, I'll give you one, he said gently. He thought for a moment, then whispered, Lyra. Your name is Lyra. The girl repeated it softly. Lyra. A small smile touched her lips. It was the first expression that looked natural, not rehearsed. From that moment, Daniel knew his life was no longer ordinary. The following days aboard the Silver Dawn were strange. Lyra followed Daniel everywhere, watching him with wide eyes as he worked on engines and circuits. She tried to mimic him, handing him tools even before he asked, as if eager to prove her worth. The crew found it amusing, some even teasing Daniel, that he had acquired a loyal shadow. But there was something deeper about her. Lyra was not just copying, she was learning, fast. Within a day, she adjusted the calibration of a power coil that had been bothering Daniel for weeks. She explained it in broken English, her soft voice careful, almost shy, but her logic was sharp. The engineers were amazed. Where did she learn this, one asked. Daniel shook his head. I don't think she remembers everything, but she knows things. At night, when the ship was quiet, Daniel found himself unable to sleep. He sat in the observation deck staring at the endless stars. Lyra often appeared beside him without sound, sitting close, her eyes reflecting starlight. You are kind, she whispered once. Daniel glanced at her, unsure how to respond. I'm just doing what anyone should. She shook her head gently. Not anyone. You see me, not tool. Her words sank into him like heavy stones. She was right. To others, she might only be an artifact, a mystery, maybe even a weapon. But to him, she was alive. Still, questions circled in his mind. Who made her? Why was she left asleep in that ship? And why had she spoken those strange words upon awakening? The answers lay hidden, but Daniel sensed one thing with certainty. Lyra was not meant to be locked away again. And somehow she was looking at him not just with obedience but with trust. Trust that would soon be tested. Life on the Silver Dawn changed after Lyra woke. At first, the crew treated her like a guest or a strange pet that Daniel had rescued, but soon they realized she was something more. She was not only alive but eager to learn. Every day she followed. Daniel like his shadow, watching closely, copying his actions and asking soft questions in her broken words. Daniel did not mind her presence. In fact, he grew used to hearing her light steps behind him when he walked through the corridors. She never complained, never argued. Yet Daniel noticed something. She always looked at him as though waiting for instructions, as if she had no thoughts of her own. That bothered him. One morning in the engine bay, Daniel gave her a simple task. Hold a wrench while he adjusted, a plasma conduit. She stood by his side, eyes shining, waiting for his command. When he asked for the tool, she handed it to him with a small smile. Good, he said, trying to encourage her. But you don't need to wait for me to tell you, every time. If you see something wrong, you can help, you can decide. Lyra tilted her head. Decide? She repeated softly, as if the word itself was foreign. Daniel sighed. Yes, decide. Make a choice. Not because I told you, but because you wanted to. She stared at the conduit, then at the wrench in her hand. Her lips moved slowly. I want to help, because I choose. Daniel smiled. Exactly. The moment felt small, but for Lyra, it was huge. Her eyes widened, as if the idea of choosing was something she had never believed possible. Over the next few days, she tried, in the cafeteria, instead of asking Daniel which food packet to take, she picked one herself. She chose a sweet fruit bar, biting into it curiously. Her face lit up with delight, and she clapped her hands together softly. Good. I choose good, she said proudly. The crew around her laughed, but not cruelly, more in surprise at her innocent joy. Even the captain, usually stern, allowed a small smile. Later in the training hall, Daniel taught her how to use simple tools and how to lift crates with care. She copied him step by step, but then without asking, she rearranged the boxes in a neater way. When Daniel asked why, she answered, Because it looks better. My choice. Her words filled Daniel with both pride and sadness. Pride, because she was learning to be free. Sadness, because it showed how deeply she had been programmed before, never allowed to make even the smallest choice. One evening, Daniel and Lyra sat together on the observation deck, stars stretching endlessly before them. Lyra leaned against the glass, her violet eyes wide with wonder. "Why, so many lights?" she asked softly. "They're stars," Daniel explained. "Each one could be a sun, some with worlds, maybe with people living on them." She pressed her hand to the glass. "People? Like you?" "Some maybe," he said. "But most will be different. Different shapes, colors, voices. That's what makes the galaxy beautiful." She thought for a moment. "And me? I am different?" Daniel nodded gently. "Yes, but different doesn't mean less. It just means you are you." Her eyes softened. She whispered, "I am Lyra." The way she said it made Daniel's chest tighten. It was the first time she said her name like she truly believed it, but not everything was peaceful. Strange signals had started pulsing from Lyra's body. The science team discovered them when monitoring her health. Every few hours, her body released a faint, encrypted transmission. No one on board could read it, but the direction was clear. It was being sent outward across space. The captain confronted Daniel about it. "She may be a beacon," the captain warned. "She could be leading someone straight to us." Daniel frowned. "It's not her fault. She doesn't even know it's happening." "That doesn't change the danger," the captain said firmly. "We're in alien space. If someone is tracking her, they won't come to talk. They'll come to take her," Daniel argued, but the worry stayed with him. At night, when Lyra slept in the medical bay, he sat nearby, watching the faint glow of her skin. She looked so peaceful, so harmless. Yet somewhere far away, others might already be coming. The next day, Daniel decided to test something. He brought Lyra to the hollow room where the ship's computer could project interactive lessons. He set the program to display simple Earth activities, cooking, painting, even music. "Here," Daniel said, handing her a digital brush. "You can make anything you want. No rules." Lyra looked nervous, holding the brush stiffly. For a long moment, she didn't move. Daniel worried she would freeze again, unable to act without orders. But then, slowly, she placed the brush to the canvas. She drew a shape. Then another. Her hand shook, but soon her lines grew steady. The image was simple, two figures standing under a sky of stars. One figure was tall, the other small, holding hands. Daniel stared at it surprised. "Is that us?" Lyra's face flushed with warmth. "Yes, my choice." For the first time, Daniel saw not just a girl who obeyed, but someone who was beginning to dream. But dreams could not hide reality. That same night, the ship's alarms rang. Long-range sensors detected movement. A vessel was approaching, fast. Its design matched no known friendly race. The crew gathered on the bridge, tense and alert. Daniel stood near the captain as the first image appeared on the screen. The alien vessel was sleek, black, and bristling with weapons. Its markings glowed with the same symbols Daniel had seen on Lyra's stasis pod. The captain's face hardened. "They've come for her." Lyra, standing beside Daniel, trembled. Her eyes widened in fear as she whispered, "They found me." The crew looked at her, questions in their eyes. Who were these pursuers? Why did they want her? Daniel placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Don't be afraid. You're with us now." But inside, his heart pounded. The mystery of Lyra's origin was about to collide with the harsh truth of the galaxy, and Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The Silver Dawn was silent except for the hum of the engines. Every crew member stood tense, watching the alien vessel on the screen. It grew larger with each passing second, dark and sharp against the field of stars. No one spoke until the captain, finally ordered, "Open a channel." A voice filled the bridge. It was cold, smooth, and carried a strange echo. "Vessel of humans, you hold what belongs to us. Return the construct, and we will let you leave unharmed." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Daniel clenched his fists. Lyra stood close to him, trembling, her wide violet eyes fixed on the image of the alien ship. The captain answered carefully, "You are speaking of the girl? She was found adrift in an abandoned vessel. She is no one's property." The voice grew sharper. "She is a companion unit, designed by our empire. She is not alive in your sense of the word. She is a tool. Return her now." Daniel felt a rush of anger. He stepped forward before he realized it. "She has a name. Her name is Lyra. She is not a thing." The bridge went quiet. All eyes turned to him. The captain gave him a warning glance, but Daniel did not care. He would not let anyone speak of her like an object. The alien voice responded after a pause, dripping with disdain. "Human sentiment. You attach names to machines and pretend they are real. She is not yours. She was made to serve. Nothing more." Lyra lowered her head. Her small hands gripped Daniel's sleeve, as if she feared the words were true. Daniel leaned closer to her. "Don't listen. You're more than that, I promise." The captain closed the channel and turned to the crew. "We need to decide. If we refuse, they may attack. If we give her up, we might avoid a fight." A heavy silence filled the room. Some officers nodded at the second option. They were deep in alien space, far from reinforcements. Fighting was dangerous. Daniel spoke again, his voice firm. "If we hand her over, we're no better than the ones who built her. She trusted us. She trusted me." The captain rubbed his forehead. "Daniel, you're letting feelings cloud your judgment. We have a duty to this ship. And I have a duty to her," Daniel said. His eyes met Lyra's, and he saw the silent plea in them. She didn't want to go, but she was ready to sacrifice herself if it meant saving the crew. "I go," she whispered, her voice trembling. "If it keeps you safe, I obey." Daniel's chest tightened. "No, you don't have to obey anymore. Not like this." The alien vessel drew closer, their weapons powered up, glowing faintly across the void. The silver dawn shook as the shields went up in response. Warning lights flashed on the bridge. The captain shouted, "Battle stations, prepare for boarding." Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her toward the engine bay. He knew the others would try to fight, but against a warship like that, the odds were bad. He needed another plan. In the engine bay, Lyra looked at him with fear. "Daniel, they strong. You cannot win." He shook his head. "Maybe not with strength, but with human tricks we might stand a chance." She frowned, confused. "Tricks?" Daniel smiled grimly. "You'll see." The alien sent another transmission. "Last chance. Return the unit, or your ship will be destroyed." The captain stalled, pretending to consider while Daniel worked quickly. He rerouted power from non-essential systems, overloading conduits in certain parts of the ship. He wasn't planning to fight head-on. He was planning to make the Silver Dawn unpredictable, dangerous even to board. Lyra watched closely, her small fingers twitching. Suddenly, she reached forward and pressed her hand to a control panel. Strange golden symbols lit up, flowing across the screen. The systems responded instantly, faster than Daniel had ever seen. He turned in shock. "How did you—" "I don't know," she whispered. "It feels natural, like memory." Daniel realized something. She wasn't just a companion unit. She was more advanced, connected deeply to technology in ways humans could barely understand. Whoever created her had given her power far beyond what they admitted. "Lyra," Daniel said, "you don't have to do this, not to prove anything." She shook her head. "Not obey. My choice." Her words gave him courage. Moments later, the alien ship fired. The Silver Dawn rocked violently, alarms blaring. Shields held, but barely. The aliens launched boarding craft, dark shapes cutting through the void. The crew braced as the first wave slammed into the hull. Armored figures poured inside, weapons, glowing with energy. They moved with precision, ignoring all resistance. Their target was clear. Lyra, Daniel, and a handful of engineers fought with whatever they had. Pulse rifles, improvised charges, even heavy tools. It was chaos, but humans were resourceful. They set traps in corridors, forcing the aliens to slow down. In the middle of the fight, Lyra revealed her hidden strength. Her body glowed faintly as she touched the walls, sending surges of energy through the ship. Doors sealed shut, lights flickered, and alien weapons malfunctioned. She staggered, clearly drained, but determined. One alien caught sight of her and shouted in their language, "The unit! Capture it!" Daniel stepped in front of her, blocking their path. "Her name is Lyra," he shouted, firing his weapon. The battle raged. The humans, though outnumbered, used every trick: smoke grenades, false signals, collapsing bulkheads. The aliens grew frustrated. They were used to easy victories, not stubborn resistance. On the bridge, the captain realized Daniel's plan. He linked ship systems to overload reactors in controlled bursts, creating false energy spikes that made the Silver Dawn seem unstable. The alien vessel hesitated, fearing the human ship might explode and take them down too. Lyra collapsed against Daniel, exhausted. Try. My choice," she whispered weakly. He held her steady. "You did more than try. You saved us." Finally, after hours of struggle, the alien commander gave the order to retreat. The boarding forces pulled back, their ship moving away. Before leaving, they sent one final message. "This is not over. The unit belongs to us. You cannot protect her forever." Then, they vanished into the stars. Silence fell on the Silver Dawn. The crew cheered weakly, battered but alive. For the first time, they looked at Lyra not as a burden, but as someone who had stood with them. In the quiet aftermath, Daniel sat with her in the medical bay. She rested on the bed, her eyes half open. "I told you before," he said gently. "You're not just something built to obey, you're free to choose, and today you chose to fight." Her lips curved in a small, tired smile. "I choose Daniel." His heart ached at her words. She had risked everything, not because of programming, but because she wanted to. Daniel knew then that humanity's defiance was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting the spark of freedom that had just been born inside Lyra, and he swore to himself he would never let anyone take it away. The Silver Dawn floated quietly after the battle. The crew was bruised, the ship's hull scorched, but their spirits were strangely high. They had stood against a powerful alien empire and survived. It was a small victory, yet it meant everything. Daniel sat beside Lyra in the medical bay. She was awake now, her violet eyes brighter though still tired. When she smiled at him weakly, he felt something stir inside him, a promise he had made to himself. He would protect her, no matter what. But Daniel knew the danger wasn't gone. The alien hunters would return, and next time they wouldn't come lightly. The captain called a meeting in the command room. Officers gathered around the glowing hollow table that displayed the ship's status. Engines were at 70%, shields at half power, and ammunition was dangerously low. "We can't outrun them forever," the captain said. "If they bring reinforcements, this ship won't last." Daniel stood up. "Then we don't wait for them to attack us. We fight on our terms." The officers frowned. One asked, "How do you expect us to fight an Empire's warship with a salvager's tools?" Daniel pointed at the hologram. "We don't beat them with firepower. We beat them with human stubbornness. We make every step costly. We show them we won't give up what we've chosen to protect." The room fell silent. Some doubted him, but others nodded slowly. Humanity had always survived by using its mind and spirit, not just weapons. Finally, the captain agreed. "Very well, we prepare. If they return, we won't run. We'll show them what humans can do." The preparations began immediately. Engineers turned empty cargo crates into barricades. Old mining charges were modified into makeshift explosives. The cooks even handed over kitchen knives and pans, joking they would become weapons if needed. Everyone on the ship, from the highest officer to the lowest worker, found a way to help. Lyra watched all of it with wide eyes. She followed Daniel as he carried equipment, asking questions about every little thing. "Why make traps?" she asked curiously. "Because traps give us a chance," Daniel explained. "The enemy has strength, but we have creativity. Humans always find a way, even when the odds are against us." She thought for a moment. "So, fight with mind, not just muscle?" Daniel smiled. "Exactly." But as the crew prepared, Lyra discovered something unexpected. When she touched the ship's walls, the panels glowed faintly under her hands. She could sense the circuits, the power running through them, even the tiny flaws in the system. One day, when Daniel was repairing a coolant leak, she placed her palm against the pipe. The flow adjusted instantly, stabilizing before his eyes. Daniel stared. "Lyra, how did you do that?" She shook her head. "I don't know. It feels like part of me. Like ship is alive and I can talk to it." Daniel realized she was more than a companion unit. She had been built with knowledge of machines, perhaps even designed to merge with them. Her creators had hidden this gift, using her only as a servant, but she was capable of far more. "You're not just made to serve," Daniel told her firmly. "You're made to create, to think, to choose. That's what makes you alive." Her eyes shone as she whispered, "Alive." Days later, the alien hunters returned. This time, not one, but 3 ships appeared on the sensors. They spread across space like predators circling prey. The crew braced for impact. A transmission came through again. The same cold voice. "Humans, you resist without reason. The unit is not yours. Return it, or we will tear your vessel apart." Daniel stepped forward before the captain could answer. "Her name is Lyra, and she chooses to stay with us. If you want her, you'll have to go through every human on this ship." The aliens responded with contempt. "Then you will be destroyed." The attack began. The Silver Dawn shook as blasts hammered the shields. Alarms blared, lights flickered, but the crew fought back with everything they had. The aliens launched boarding parties again, expecting an easy capture. But this time, they met resistance at every corner. Corridors filled with smoke, floors electrified, bulkheads sealed like traps. Humans fought with grit, springing ambushes from hidden corners. Daniel led one team personally, guiding Lyra through the chaos. She moved close to him, her small hands glowing as she pressed against walls, disabling alien rifles and shutting doors in their faces. Each time, she grew paler, but she refused to stop. One alien broke through, towering over Daniel with a blade of plasma. Daniel's weapon was empty. Before he could react, Lyra stepped forward, raising her hand. Energy surged from her body, sending a pulse that froze the alien mid-step, knocking it back. She collapsed to her knees, panting. Daniel caught her. "Lyra, you can't push yourself like this." Her voice was faint but steady. "My choice. To protect." The aliens grew frustrated. For every step forward, they lost ground to human traps and defiance. The Silver Dawn's crew fought like cornered wolves, refusing to surrender. Even the captain, once cautious, now shouted with pride, "Show them what humans are made of." Finally, Daniel enacted his boldest plan. He overloaded the ship's secondary reactor, creating the illusion of an imminent core breach. The alien ships pulled back instinctively, fearing an explosion. But before retreating, their commander sent one last message. "You delay the inevitable. The unit cannot escape. Its purpose, we will return." Then the hunters withdrew, vanishing once again into the black sea of space. Exhaustion filled the Silver Dawn. The crew slumped against walls, battered but alive. They had done the impossible. They had defied an empire, not with strength, but with human spirit. In the quiet aftermath, Daniel carried Lyra to the observation deck. She rested against him, weak but awake, her eyes glowing faintly under the starlight. You fought harder than anyone, he told her softly. Not because you had to, but because you chose to. That's what makes you more than what they say you are. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. I thought I was made only to serve, but with you, I feel I can be more. Daniel placed a hand over hers. You are more, Lyra, and no one can take that from you. For a long moment they sat in silence, watching the stars. Around them, the galaxy stretched wide, full of threats and mysteries, but also full of hope. The fight was not over. The hunters would come again. But now Daniel knew the truth. Humanity would never bow, and neither would Lyra. She was no longer a tool. She was part of them, and together, they would face whatever the universe sent their way. The Silver Dawn floated in silence, its engines weak but alive, its crew battered yet standing. The last battle had shaken everyone, but it had also filled them with pride. They had faced an empire's hunters and refused to bow. Daniel sat with Lyra in the quiet of the observation deck. Beyond the glass, stars stretched forever, endless and calm after the storm. Lyra leaned against him, her small frame still recovering from the effort she had poured into saving the ship. She gazed at the stars with wide violet eyes. So many lights, she whispered. And each one could hold life. Daniel nodded. Yes, worlds we haven't seen, people we haven't met. The galaxy is bigger than we can imagine. She was silent for a long time. Then softly she said, I was told I must serve. I must obey. That was my purpose, but now I think maybe I can choose more. Daniel turned toward her, his heart tightening. You can, Lyra. You don't belong to them. You don't belong to anyone. You belong to yourself. Her lips curved in the faintest smile. Myself, I never thought that before. The days that followed were filled with repairs. The crew patched holes, replaced scorched panels, and recalibrated the engines. Everyone worked together, no longer seeing Lyra as a burden, but as one of their own. She helped where she could, using her strange gift to stabilize systems and guide the engineers with her sharp intuition. Some of the crew still whispered about the danger she brought. They feared the hunters would return with even greater force, but most now defended her. She had stood with them, fought for them, and nearly collapsed from the effort. She had proved herself not just as a creation, but as a companion in the truest sense. One evening, while Daniel checked the power grid, Lyra approached him holding a small data pad. On the screen was a picture she had drawn, the Silver Dawn surrounded by stars with tiny figures inside. Among them, two shapes stood side by side, one tall, one small, holding hands. This is us, she said shyly. I choose to draw this, because this is what I feel. Daniel's throat tightened. He gently took the pad, touched by the simple honesty of her choice. It's beautiful, Lyra. Her smile grew, soft and real. Beautiful, because it's ours. But peace did not last long. 1 week later, long-range sensors picked up another signal. A massive fleet was gathering, not just 3 ships this time, but dozens. The alien empire had decided they would not tolerate further defiance. The captain gathered the crew in the command hall. We cannot win against such numbers, he said gravely. Our best chance is to run. We must head for human space and hope we can escape before they catch us. Daniel looked at Lyra. Fear flickered in her eyes, but also determination. He knew what she was thinking. She didn't want to bring more danger to the crew. She was ready to sacrifice herself. Before she could speak, he took her hand. Don't say it. You don't have to give yourself up. Not this time. Not ever. Her lips trembled. But they follow me. If I go, maybe they stop. Daniel shook his head firmly. No. You are not their property. You are not their tool. You're free. And if they want to fight, then they'll learn again what humans are made of. The crew, listening nearby, nodded. For the first time, they stood not just as survivors, but as protectors of something precious. As the alien fleet closed in, Daniel and Lyra prepared a final plan. Instead of running blindly, they would use the strange connection Lyra had with technology. She had grown stronger, more confident in her gift. If she merged with the ship's systems, she might be able to bend the laws of energy itself, creating a burst powerful enough to throw the ship into faster-than-light speed for a short jump. It was risky. It could tear her apart. Daniel refused at first. "It's too dangerous, you could die." Lyra looked at him steadily, her violet eyes calm. "My choice," she said softly. "Not to obey, not to serve, to live, to be free. If I do this, it is because I want to." Daniel felt his chest ache with pride and fear. She had come so far, from a girl who only repeated promises of obedience, to someone who could claim her own will. Finally, he nodded. "Then I'll stand with you. Whatever happens, we face it together." The moment came. The alien fleet loomed ahead, a wall of dark ships blotting out the stars. The silver dawn shook as its engines pushed to full power, but it was no match for the speed of the hunters. Lyra stood in the engine bay, her small hands pressed to the glowing core. Energy swirled around her, golden patterns tracing across her skin. Daniel stood beside her, monitoring the controls. The crew held their breath. The alien commander's voice filled the ship again. "You cannot escape. The unit belongs to us." For the first time, Lyra answered herself. Her voice was clear, strong. "I belong to no one. I am Lyra. I choose freedom." And with those words, the ship roared. Light surged from the core, spreading through every corridor. The silver dawn leapt forward, tearing through space itself. Stars stretched into lines, the alien fleet fading behind them. The ship burst into faster-than-light travel, carried by Lyra's will. When the energy faded, silence returned. They were safe. The alien fleet was far behind. In the quiet aftermath, Lyra collapsed into Daniel's arms. He caught her, holding her tightly, fear stabbing his chest. "Lyra, stay with me," he whispered urgently. Her eyes fluttered open. She was weak, but smiling. "I chose. And we are free." Daniel's relief flooded through him. He pressed his forehead gently to hers. "Yes, Lyra, you chose. And you're not alone." The crew cheered around them, their voices echoing through the ship. They had survived once more, not because of power, but because of will. Because a human and an alien girl had stood together and chosen freedom over obedience. That night, in the observation deck, Daniel and Lyra sat together once again. The stars stretched before them, endless and welcoming. She leaned against him, her voice soft but sure. "When I woke, I said I can serve, I can obey. That was all I knew. But now, I can choose. And I choose to stay. With you." Daniel's chest warmed. He looked at her, seeing not a creation or a tool, but a person, a friend, a companion, a symbol of what it meant to fight for freedom. "You're not just someone I saved," he told her quietly. "You're someone who saved me too." Lyra smiled, her violet eyes shining brighter than the stars. "Together, we save each other." And so, under the endless sky of the galaxy, the human and the alien girl began a new journey, not of obedience but of choice. Not of being owned, but of belonging to themselves. The hunters would return someday. The dangers of the galaxy would never end. But Daniel and Lyra knew the truth. Humanity would never bow, and Lyra would never again be only what she was told to be. She was free.